And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Go ahead and say it, Ed. Go Tigers!
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
You like that? You like that?
F it. Jamar's down there somewhere.
In the New Orleans Saints select Marcus Davenport.
No!
Splash Brothers. Yeah.
It's playoff. Keep going, Brace.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Welcome to Chasing the Trophy Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Sanders, and I've got my good buddy Clay Williams here with me, and our producer, and this is on the Dirty Boot Sports Network. We're coming at you for the Bust Picks episode, and I'm really excited about this episode. There's some really crazy picks that we got. Clay, I know you said premise that with some crazy picks, but we're gonna talk a little bit about what we mean by those here in a little bit. But yeah, Clay, I'm glad to be back and excited to kick this one off, man.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Bust is it's the scariest list to make.
Yes,
because, like with sleepers or breakouts, if we miss, we're like, oh, okay, or they can have a solid year but not amazing.
Yeah.
These guys, like they could be I legit might have the number one of each position on here, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like they could finish number one in the position, and I would not be shocked.
So just to settle that, for our opinion for bust players, or players in our opinion that seem like they're being drafted higher in drafts than compared to how we think they will produce in fantasy compared to the players being drafted around them. I mean, in a nutshell, it's our opinion of these players. We just don't think they're going to produce as well as their current ADP. Okay, so we're not saying some of these guys aren't going to be good. We're just saying that we're not 100%. We don't think these guys are going to produce at where you're drafting them. Okay, now, like, just long shot here. Say Tyreek Hill's number one, right? So if we pick Tyreek Hill as a bust, that means we don't think he's going to, we think he's probably going to finish around 10, okay? And that's just an example. So that doesn't mean that Tyreek Hill won't be good. Like, if you draft him overall, he's still going to be, probably top 10, 12 wide receiver, even on a bad day. But also, you're not going to get that value as the number 1 or 2 overall pick that he's going as. You could have drafted him in the second round. Returning that type of value, because in the first round you're looking for a locked-in, guaranteed first rounder. And anyway, that's just an example. But some of these guys, we just don't think they're going to finish as high as they're being drafted. And there's a lot of hype around a lot of players this year, and Clay and I are going to talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah.
But first off, I want to go ahead and get started with a word of prayer, and then we're going to do our sponsors. Then we're going to preview our next upcoming episode. And then we're going to get right on into the meat of the episode. So, Lord, just thank you so much for this opportunity to come and just talk about this sport that we really enjoy to fellowship around and talk about and watch, and just blessing us with an opportunity to enjoy this, Lord. We really appreciate it, because without you, we know none of this would be possible. And just continue to let us just kind of shine a light for you and just do anything we do to glorify your name, Lord, and just please be with those on our prayer requests, Lord. You know our hearts, the ones out there that are hurting, Lord. And just be with those that need you, and just be with them and show your presence to them, Lord, and just let them know that you're with them, Lord. Just thank you for everything you've done for us, and just continue to let us shine a light for you and continue to glorify you. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, guys. So first, we want to thank our sponsors: Big Reed BBQ, Mimi's Children's Boutique, Doug Demona Farm and Feed, Crown Detailing, and Championship Carts. And our title sponsor for this episode is going to be Championship Carts. It's a premier dealer of Evolution luxury golf carts for North Louisiana. They carry a wide variety of models to choose from, with carts that seat 2, 4, and 6. And a selection of 8 colors optional. So all of their products are equipped with lithium batteries, 9-inch touchscreens. I don't even have a 9-inch touchscreen in my car. Okay, 9-inch touchscreens, Bluetooth capabilities, backup cameras, and select models offer silent off-road tires that tackle more rugged terrain. So you can find these championship carts on Facebook or Instagram, or you can give them a call at 318-560-3464 so you can discover which model would be perfect fit for you. I mean, guys, 9-inch touchscreen, Bluetooth. I don't know about you, Clay. I mean, I know some people are going to golf carts for hunting, and sounds like they might even have something set up for you for that. So check out Championship Carts, guys. I mean, go ahead, Clay.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Christmas is coming up pretty soon. Like, it's a Christmas idea. Like, about 4 months away. People are starting to gather their lists. So, yeah, it's definitely a great deal. But, yeah, Championship Carts.
Yep. We appreciate y'all guys for supporting us. Y'all go out and support them. If you're looking for a golf cart, check them out. Give them the chance to win your business. And we appreciate y'all. And then upcoming pods, guys. This is our bust picks, and then we got one more, our bounce back player picks. And those are some players that we're going to cover that had high expectations last year, kind of busted, and we kind of expect them to fulfill those expectations this year and kind of bounce back to what we might have thought they would do last year. So that's going to be in our next pod. But on this one, we're going to cover 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends that we think are going to bust compared to their ADP expectations this year. I'm sorry, guys. And as y'all can still hear, I don't know what's going on with me, but here lately when Clay and I have been recording pods at night, I sound as raspy as all get out. I don't know what it is. I got a bottle of water here. I clear my throat all the time. But y'all just bear with me, okay? I just sound like the guy off Sling Blade, and I'm sorry. But anyway, those of you that have seen that movie and get that. But anyway, these are some that we just we're kind of using a combination of ADPs from ESPN and Fantasy Pros. Like, I like pulling my stuff from Fantasy Pros because it's a conglomeration of ADPs, but it does list out ESPN's ADP, and most of these are pretty darn close to that. And I do like using and looking at the overall ADP a little bit more than the individual position ADP, because that gives you a little bit more idea of what's going around that area.
Oh, yeah.
So, like,
sometimes, I mean, there might be a gap from, the number 10 player to the number 11 player might be a 15-pick gap. Like, who knows?
So it kind of lets you know, like, if you're picking that guy there, around what else is going to be around that pick that you're missing out on. And I'm going to kind of use that and allude to that whenever we're talking about some of these picks, or at least, here as we're going, because I also put that into my thought process whenever I'm looking at some of these picks. Like, if I pick this guy, he could do this, but this other guy, I mean, he could be a league winner, It's just, weighing your I guess your percentages of, your bust potential or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, we can go ahead and jump right on into it. And Clay, I'm going to let you get started. We're going to start with our quarterbacks. And who's your quarterback?
All right. Well, number 1, I'm going Patrick Mahomes. Let's get it rolling hot. The 3-time Super Bowl champion. I think 2-time MVP, something like that.
Yeah.
But listed at number 4 for the quarterback rankings right now on ESPN, only behind Allen, Hurts, and Jackson. Last year, I believe he finished like 8. So he just, there's something about this Chiefs team now where they've accomplished so much. They just don't really care anymore. There's a lot of Pacheco involved. There's a lot of short passes. And honestly, we don't even know what the receiving room is going to be this year. Rashee Rice might get suspended. Probably not. It looks like Marquise Brown's already hurt. We don't know if we can trust Xavier Worthy. There's question marks. Is Travis Kelce still, is he healthy enough for a full season? We saw him banged up some last year. There's a lot of question marks with Mahomes and this Chiefs offense. Now, that's not to say that the Chiefs aren't going to be amazing. They're probably still going to win 12, 13 games and make a playoff run because they're the Chiefs. They have a good defense. They have a good run game. But I just don't love Mahomes as the number 4 quarterback in fantasy. Yeah. That just seems a little steep for me.
Right there with you. Now, I will say one of the key points that people don't think about is how good their defense is going to be.
Yeah.
They've made some improvements. We've seen it get better toward the end of the year last year. And that's the thing about having a good defense as a quarterback. You don't have to score as much and push the ball as much whenever your defense is holding the other team to less points.
Yeah, I mean, if the Chiefs get a 14-point lead, they're perfectly content with Pacheco carrying them the rest of the game.
That's right,
and that's at the point that they're at as a franchise. Like they're cool coasting all 17 games.
Now I will say, so on Fantasy Pros, it's got Mahomes going, and even it says on ESPN, as far as ESPN goes, it's got Mahomes going ahead of Jackson.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe they just haven't updated it.
Either way, on the draft rankings, they're at 49 and 53 and 4. So I mean, they're right beside each other.
Yeah.
And I could see more people seeing Mahomes and just going him.
That's right. And I'm right there with you though. I don't. Now we're also, guys, we're not saying he's going to finish outside the top 10.
No.
Okay. But we're just saying, like, he might finish around the range that Jordan Love and Kyler Murray are going, where you could get them way down around pick 71, 72 instead of picking Mahomes at 31.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, because we seen Mahomes when he was having to score and put his pedal to the metal a lot, and he's not having to do that as much anymore. And like Clay said, he's also some of his weapons are getting a little bit shakier. Not to say that he might not still be good, but I'm right there with you. I understand that pick. He wasn't one of mine mainly because, I mean, I feel like he very well could fit. Like, he's not one. If he was going one, I'm right there.
Yeah.
I probably would have had him, honestly. But 3, 4, I get that. He's probably very well within his range, but I could definitely see that scenario. I see a scenario more likely that he finishes around 8 or 9 than I do him at 1.
Yeah, and he finished 8 last year, and some of the guys that were behind him, C.J. Stroud, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, I could see being above him. And then you got to factor in the rookies as well, Daniels and Williams. Like, all of those guys could realistically jump him, even Tua. Like, I could see any of them. But also, Mahomes could finish top 5, and I'd not be surprised because he's Mahomes. That's the thing with these. I like to have a little fun with it, though, and get a little bold.
I like it.
My number 2, though, that was my quarterback, and that was quarterback 4 overall. This is quarterback 5, Anthony Richardson. I've been a big defender of him. I had him coming into the draft last season, the actual NFL draft. My quarterback rankings were Stroud, Richardson, Young. I liked Richardson a lot. I thought he's going to be, and I still think he's going to be a good talent in the NFL. I think it needs time still. I think he's got to prove he can be healthy. He's got to prove that he can hit the throws. We know the running game's there, and that's the only thing that I think is keeping him up so high, is that he has a really good rushing floor for fantasy purposes. But I think there's better options, quite literally, behind him. And the odds of him playing, I would say, 15 games this year are pretty low. And if you miss 3 or 4 games as a quarterback, you're going to drop down that list pretty quickly. So that's my main reason there. But I like the player. I think he still needs another year to prove himself.
So I'm going to jump in there on this one because this one's also on my list. And it has a lot to do with him going 6th overall at quarterback.
Yeah, crazy.
And around 52. All right, so this probably is the most dangerous pick that we probably pick because you can see he has that potential to be top. Like, I mean, he is one that could finish 1 overall.
Yeah.
Like, if he stays healthy and he does what we've seen him do all year, dude could be number 1. But you're paying a high price for that chance of him not finishing but around 10 or 11 still, because we're talking about, I mean, pick 11, pick 10's Dak Prescott, right? Going at pick 75. He finished QB4 last year. Not much has changed with his team. He lost Michael Gallup. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I know. So he's going at 75. Richardson's going at 52. Okay. And, I mean, like you said, he ain't stayed healthy. Also, he's got Michael Pittman. He's got some wide receivers. But they also got Jonathan Taylor that they just paid a bunch of money to. They're going to give him the rock. Like, it ain't the Anthony Richardson show yet. Okay, it's still the Jonathan Taylor show. I don't think they're going to throw. He's going to throw as much as people think. I would not be shocked if they kept him to about 25 to 30 passes a game max. You know,
but the scary part there is that he might have 10 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. I mean,
he very well. So and something else. Yeah, and something else. Dang, I had another point. I'm gonna have to come back to it now because I was ready to say.
Absolutely with the weapons as well, and I think Josh Downs, his wide receiver 2, is already banged up and might miss a couple weeks.
And they got that rookie in there, but
Adonai Mitchell, who is kind of a project. I mean, he kind of fell because people didn't know if he was going to play immediately.
That's right.
So there's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, but he's got the potential. He's kind of one of those. If you're going to pay that price, you'd like to have a history. Somewhere around in there before that. But you look at some of the guys going later that have that history of finishing high, and they have pushed them down for no reason. And that's where we're coming at, guys, is that you can get that value later and draft better skill position players this high. And it's just not worth that.
Like the main one to look at to me is just, it shocks me how Jordan Love finished like QB5 last year, and now he's just down at like 10 or 8 or something.
And he got Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, he got
because
better.
He was missing Aaron Jones for most of the year, and he got help with his offensive line.
And it was a year where no one expected it last year. Like everybody was like, he needs another year, and now he's got that other year.
and I'll be honest, it wouldn't shock me if Green Bay went out and got a wide receiver at some point this year if they were in good contention. They got a good defense. Something now I know. All right. Also, guys, with quarterbacks, you have to think about the point structure of your league. Okay, is it a 6-point per passing touchdown, or is it a 4-point per passing touchdown? Because I'm in both in some of my leagues, and I will say in 4-point per passing touchdowns, these guys that run the ball are going to be a lot more valuable because they run. They're going to get more rushing yards. The guys that only pass, even if they put up a bunch of touchdowns, you're taking 2 points away for every touchdown. If they throw for 3 touchdowns, that's 6 less points a game than, the guys that are rushing the ball on top of that. Yeah, so, absolutely. In my league that I'm in with that, Jalen Hurts is high on my list because he runs the ball so much. Even though he don't throw as much, he runs the ball. Same thing with Lamar, Anthony Richardson. So if you're in one of those leagues, be thinking about that because these guys could be a little bit more valuable for you there. But there's still a risk. You've still got some running quarterbacks that are going later. Yeah. But I'm just saying, in some of those leagues, these guys could be a little bit safer of a bet at their value. Yeah. So take that into consideration. I wanted to preface that on the quarterback side before we got through with this.
I think most of mine are 4. Except maybe one that I joined this year might be a 6. I'm not exactly sure, but 4 is usually the standard. And 6 that does change a lot.
I will say 6 makes it a lot broader because when you got 6, the guys like Purdy, even Prescott, Goff, Cousins,
it probably bumps every quarterback up.
It really evens the field. It really does for them. It's not equal because the Russians still, 1 point per 10 yards versus 1 point per 25 per passing. Yeah, but you still it helps out a little bit more than you think. So just to remember that. And anyway, I want to talk about that with Anthony Richardson. You pretty much said everything I had to say on that too, but that's one of mine. And who's your other one, Clay?
My last one is Justin Herbert. He's at 14 right now, which I still just think is a little high. Aaron Rodgers is right ahead of him. I absolutely agree with that. Guys behind him, Kirk Cousins, Caleb Williams, Tua, Goff. I'll take all of them over. Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator of this team. We've seen what he likes to do with quarterbacks. Lamar was the quarterback for him. With Lamar, he could run the ball.
That's right.
But what was the number one issue every time that everybody had Lamar on their fantasy team was he doesn't throw the ball enough. And I don't think that he's going to throw the ball enough this year, Justin Herbert. I think that's just going to be the biggest issue. It's Greg Roman. It's Jim Harbaugh. They're going to run the ball. They also don't have receivers. Ladd McConkey's your possible one with Josh Palmer. I don't feel good about either of those. For 14, honestly, I wouldn't put him in the top 20 this year, Herbert.
Yeah.
Is he going to finish in the top 20? Possibly. But I feel a lot better about a lot of these guys, even as a backup. Like, I don't really want to touch Herbert just because I think there's so much unknown to that Chargers offense that it just doesn't feel good this year.
Yeah. So touch on that a little bit. First off, I've seen Herbert run, and he can run.
Yeah.
That was before the plantar fascia injury in the preseason, which is not something that goes away easily. Anybody that's had plantar fascia issues or had players with them, that is not something that it's not like you let it heal and it goes away. Typically, it lingers for a while.
Oh, in basketball, that knocks you out the season pretty much.
And I don't know I don't know how severe. I don't know if it was a plantar fascia rupture, which that would be even worse. But I did see he did return to practice 2 days ago. But still, that's going to limit his running, okay? And then, like Clay said, we've seen Herbert throw 40 to 50 times for the last several years. It's probably going to be more like 25 to 35, It's not going to be the 40 to 50, 40-ish over there, somewhere in there that we've been used to seeing from it. And then, like Clay said, the wide receivers, the weapons, they went out and got Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. I think we know what Greg Roman did with them whenever they were in Baltimore. You know what I mean?
Yep.
20 carries apiece.
And two
tight ends
that fit a blocking scheme.
Yeah. So, he's still going to throw it, but he's probably going to have that volume. I do think if he gets his wide receiver core lined out, I still do think he'll be in that top, probably around 12 to 15 range. I don't think he'll drop out of the 20. I just think he's too good of a passer, too good. He's too smart. He's too cerebral. He'll figure out a way to be productive in that offense. I would like to think he'd get more efficient. But also what they might run into, what Greg Roman might not be considering. Now, this defense is supposed to be good, but it ain't been good yet.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about they had in Baltimore is they had a good defense that would hold teams down while they ran the ball. That might not be the case in the Chargers this year, but they have the weapons to do it. They just haven't done it yet. Like, they got the big names, and in theory, on paper, they should have been the best defense in the league last year if you look at the guys they had.
Absolutely.
But then injuries, and then they just didn't play that well. So if they do get that defense lined out, we could see more of the Baltimore Ravens, scheme all over again. But they might have to throw it more because of that. It's kind of a toss-up.
That is one thing, is that I don't think the Chargers are going to be good enough to just run the ball and control the game every game.
Yeah.
So, like the Ravens we saw, they would always do. And if say it does work, which a lot of people believe it does. Like, I think Vegas has their win total at 8.5. Like, they're expecting the Chargers to be a 500 team. If it does work, I just don't see the upside in Herbert, especially as a rusher, because, with Lamar, some of them games he'd have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Like, Herbert's ceiling to me is like maybe 30 yards for a game rushing.
Yeah, like, 30 to 50-ish, maybe.
And that's if he comes back healthy, man. Like,
that's right, yeah. So I'm right there with you. Anyway, I get it. If he wouldn't have been ranked so low, like on mine, he's around QB 17 going off the board.
Okay.
He's just above Rodgers and Cousins, and I'm right there with you. I'm taking Cousins, Rodgers over him all day.
Yeah.
If he was healthy, it might be a little bit closer for me. But with him, with the plantar fascia and also his wide receiver core, if they were a little bit better too, that's a big one. But yeah, if he would have been like around 10 or 11, he would have been on my list. But 17, but I do see where you're talking about. He's just doesn't have the upside, you know. And I'm right there with you, man. So, all right. So mine, I'm going to go ahead and jump out. Mine is one that a lot of people are super high on. I like the guy. I had him on a couple teams last year. I will draft him again at value. But where he's going right now, C.J. Stroud, I just can't do it. QB5 off the board in most formats. Guys, like, he arguably had one of the best seasons a rookie could have last year. He finished QB 13. Okay. His strength of schedule this year is 22nd among quarterbacks. Okay. So it's pretty tough, right? he did get some better. He did get a little boost in wide receivers, but he runs the ball almost zero. All right. Last year, 39 attempts for 167 yards on the season with 3 rushing touchdowns. I feel like with 39 attempts, 167 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns was great. Okay. Like, that's pretty good. But he only threw 5 picks last year, guys. I mean, for a rookie going into a sophomore season, I just don't know if I can believe that he eclipses that he takes another step forward. I'm not saying that he won't finish out. I see him more around 10, okay? Maybe 9, 10, somewhere in that range. I just can't buy into the 5, the number 5 overall without being a Russian quarterback. Not with the other guys that we have around there. Like, you're looking at Hurts, Allen, Mahomes, Jackson, like Burrow. Like, people forget Burrow still runs some, okay? Like, I know he's been hurt some, but Burrow is, to me, more likely to finish at 5 than Stroud. Jordan Love, all right, that did finish at QB5 last year, all right, is ranked down there at 8, going almost 30 picks, little over 20-something picks later, okay? And he actually did finish at QB5. Stroud finished at QB13, guys, and we're putting him at 5? Like, it's just way too high for me. I mean, that's just me. I think the cost is too great.
I love Stroud, and it feels like a top 5 season for him is going to require like 4,500 yards and 35 plus touchdowns.
Yeah. So,
and I don't know now. Can he take that jump? Possibly, but last year, as you said, played awesome and finished with 4,100 yards and 23 passing touchdowns. So, like 12 more touchdowns this year is pretty crazy, especially with Joe Mixon in the backfield, who is going to get his. Like, it is pretty tough.
5 is just without having rushing upside. Now, if he ran the ball for another 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, absolutely. But he ran for 160-something yards last year and 3 touchdowns. I'll be honest, 3 touchdowns is pretty good for 167 yards. Like, I mean, that he might do that again, but I don't think he does more than that. He could do less than that. But anyway, so C.J. Stroud's my number 1. And it's not that I don't like him. I do. If he fell late enough, I'd draft him. But, dude, like, Kyler Murray is going at 72 right after Jordan Love. And we've seen him finish at QB2. And I really think that he's got such a great rushing. And I just can't pick somebody that early with that much risk when you can go so much later with somebody so much or upside that is very likely going to, like, the downside would finish where Stroud does, So that's him. Number 2 for me. And honestly, I've listened to a bunch of things over the last couple of days, and I've heard a lot of Josh Allen picks at bust. He's not my number 2. Jalen Hurts is. But there's been a lot of compelling arguments about Josh Allen losing all the weapons that he did, and he's still going like 1 or 2 overall. And I'm like, man, that's a great point. Like, the dude lost his 2 top wide receivers last year, and people are still picking him 1 or 2 overall and not downgrading him. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's a great point. Like, how do you expect him to finish? And last year, he took a step back. Like, or I guess no, he really didn't take a step back.
18 picks last year was his big thing.
No, he didn't really. He finished QB1 last year.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was like at 3 or 4.
No, he had 15 rushing touchdowns. That was his big thing.
Yeah. So, okay. But he has the worst quarterback schedule, by the way, of any quarterback. Josh Allen
that Buffalo schedule's tough.
Yeah, he 32nd out of 32 teams, the worst quarterback schedule. So be careful with that. But anyway, that's not my guy. But I heard that argument, and it almost made me swap him out for my guy. And that's the only reason I bring this up, because I'm like, okay, I need to talk about that a little bit. My guy's Jalen Hurts, okay? So my biggest thing with Jalen Hurts is they brought in Saquon Barkley, okay? Now, I'm not saying he's going to take all over, and I'm not saying Hurts will finish outside top 10. Honestly, I can see Hurts like finishing around 5 or 6. Okay, just a little step back, but we're talking 20. We're talking 20 to 22 picks later. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about here. Right now, Hurts is going around pick 30. Okay, so I just think he had 15 rushing touchdowns last year. All right, he was dealing with DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott. All right, of course they're going to let Jalen Hurts run it around the end. Okay, we got Saquon in the backfield now. You think they're going to? You think he's going to get 15 rushing touchdowns around the goal line? Like, I mean, I just can't see it, man. I just can't see them bringing in Saquon, the best runner they've had in a long time, behind this awesome top 5 offensive line, and them not giving the ball to Saquon on the goal line more. And so if you take away those, like, say he only gets 10, all right, that's take away 5 touchdowns, that's 30 points. All right, take away 30 points from him, you're looking like, you take away those 30 points, you're still finishing around 5 or 6. Okay, that's only if you take away 5 touchdowns. Okay, that's not even the yards that he might lose because of that too. Okay, with them bringing in Saquon, I think that hurts his value way more than people realize. So that's my thing, is he's going as a second quarterback overall. I think he's got to take a step down somewhere.
I'd be surprised if he has 15 touchdowns again rushing. Especially you got to mention the Jason Kelce loss as well, because many of them QB sneaks that they had.
Yeah,
you don't really know how that's going to work without Kelce.
Yeah, and his experience. That's right.
Yeah, but I do think where you might lose some of the rushing with him, I do think he's going to take an uptick back to his norm in passing. Because 15 picks last year and only 23 touchdowns, I think he's going to have a better season than that. Now, is it going to happen? Maybe not. But they just had last year was just a messed up year altogether. They got new OC and everything in, so I do kind of like it. But yeah, two is kind of steep.
Yeah.
I do feel that.
And 24th strength of schedule for him, so it's a pretty tough schedule. Okay. Also, you got to give some kind of thought. This was another thing that popped into my mind: the rift between him and his head coach. Like, they played it off. You didn't hear nothing about it during the season, which is great. But then after the season came out, there's been several beat writers and reporters report that Sirianni and Hurts were at each other's throats pretty much all year last year. And to me, that's just asking for problems later on. Like, how do you, as management, if he's your guy for the future, how do you continue with that head coach if your quarterback doesn't get along with him? Like, I don't know, and Hurts, kudos to him, because he didn't go to the press, he didn't go to the media, and I don't know who reported that, but somebody knew that there's been problems with him, and they went to, and they wrote about that. And so that was another thing. Like, if Sirianni and him have problems, like, I don't know if it'll interfere with the team or not or what, but if it does, like, at what point, how, just another issue that you got to think about that they could have to deal with. So Jalen Hurts is my second one. We got to move on. Lord knows it's going to be an hour-long podcast again if we don't. So C.J. Stroud, Jalen Hurts, and my last one, Anthony Richardson. We already talked about him. So we're going to jump right on into running backs. Clay, what running back bust do you have?
We're going to stay in Philadelphia. I'm going Saquon.
Oh, snap. Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saquon as a first-round pick to me is just a little bit scary. Not because of Saquon. Saquon's a great player. Let me see what he finished last year as a running back. He was like, what? What's that, about 13 probably?
All right, hold on now, Clay. Now that's apples and bananas.
With the Giants.
Apples and bananas there.
Absolutely.
But go ahead and make your points.
Tell me the last time a Philadelphia running back was even in the top 10 of his position.
Yeah. But when's the last time they had a running back of his quality?
That's true. That's true.
With that offensive line they have.
I want to see it. That's the main thing. First round pick
gotcha.
to me is just really
It is.
steep
It
for
is
him.
in a PPR league. I'm right there with you. It's a
Yeah.
little steep because you don't know if he's going to get that pass catching that he's gotten in the past. So
And
I'm
and
not.
you
I'm
just
not far behind you there.
as we said with the Hurts deal of he's going to
Yep.
lose touchdowns to Saquon. We don't know that for sure. Like
Yeah.
Hurts could absolutely still run for 10 plus touchdowns on them sneaks, and
Yeah.
Saquon just be there to win more so than get the stats.
Yeah.
I just that's the thing that gets me. If he was in a mid second round, late second round pick, I'm cool with it. First round overall pick, like number 10 overall on the board, 5 running back. That's just really steep for me. And I don't think he has the upside of some of the guys that are behind him, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I look, I'm right there with you. I could see Pacheco finishing higher than him.
Yeah.
And he's going
like
around 20. So you're talking about 10 picks later. Pacheco's going next round, So I'm right there with you. He is steep.
The main thing that I just worry about is like with your first overall pick, you got to hit it. And
that's right.
I feel like he's one that you might take at number 9 overall, and he not finish in the top 30 of fantasy. Like it might be like that, and that might lose your season.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that might happen there.
I think that's I don't think that's a terrible pick at all. I was just trying to play devil's advocate
absolutely.
there. Now I will say he wasn't really on my radar. But I really wasn't looking at him in the first round. Honestly, I did not realize he was going at the end of the first round because end of the first round right now, Justin Jefferson's going there. And I'm going Justin Jefferson all day long over Saquon.
I mean,
it just is what it is.
If I'm at the number 9 pick and it's Saquon's the best player on the board, I'd take Gibbs over him immediately. Just because of the upside, like I just feel a lot more. I just feel better about Gibbs, and there's question marks still with Saquon in Philadelphia, and it's just I got to see it to believe it necessarily. Now, is he going to have a great season? I think so, but he might just be more so a great season for football rather than fantasy football. That might be where it goes. My next pick is also pretty high up there. Kyren Williams. Number 7 overall for running backs, 15 on the overall draft board, so mid-second round pick. Kyren last year, I think, exceeded every expectation anyone in the world had of him. Finished at running back 7, which is kind of lower than I thought. I thought he was definitely a top 5 guy.
It says, let's see, PPR, he was 5.
Okay.
Is what Fantasy Pros has him at 5 in PPR last year. And now – I'll give you 1 point to this, Clay, because I was just noticing this whenever I pulled this stuff up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He finished at RB5, only played 12 games, just FYI.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. He was awesome, like, whenever he played. There's just something about this. I don't know. There's just something about him that makes me think it's not going to happen again, just to be honest.
I got you.
Maybe the Blake Corum effect happens. There's been some rumors that he's going to steal some carries from him. Maybe Stafford gets it going again with Kupp and Nakua. I think he had a really good season last year. And honestly, overall, I'm just kind of low on that Rams team. I think they're just going to take a kind of a step back. The offensive line's not very good. He had 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, and then 3 more touchdowns receiving. So absolutely a good season. I just feel better about some of the other guys at the position with higher upside, in my opinion.
I got you.
Like if you leave with Saquon and Kyren round 1 and 2, I think you're losing your league.
Yeah. Well, I think you made your point there because I was looking at who Saquon would probably more likely finish around, and you're probably looking around Kyren Williams. Like around pick 15 would be a little bit more fair for Saquon than pick 9, in the second round. So that's what I was looking about, who I expected Saquon to finish around. And, really him, maybe Pacheco-ish. I think, and where, like you said, where you're drafting him in the first round, you probably need to be drafting a stud wide receiver there. But anyway, that's because he's not going to get the catches like he used to.
Yeah, take a little bit of a risk on one of the younger, like higher
Well,
upside
Bijan,
running backs.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but Bijan's not going that late. So
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor is, but it's like, is Anthony Richardson going to take away some of that?
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, so you got Saquon, you got Kyron. Who's your other guy?
We'll go into Chicago for DeAndre Swift.
Uh,
Still being at 19, which
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to have that much of a role in this offense, to be honest.
Come on.
It's kind of a crowded backfield. You got Roshan there that I still think is going to get some carries.
Yeah.
I think they're even trying out Velus Jones apparently at running back, according to Hard Knocks.
Lord.
So
Cordell Patterson.
Yeah,
2.0.
honestly, that's exactly what it looks like. Now, I think they're just going to be a very pass-heavy team. I think they're going to have some leads that they're not. I don't think they're going to have many leads. I think they're going to be playing from behind a lot of the time. Offensive line is one of the bigger question marks for the team, and I don't think that DeAndre Swift's like good enough to overcome that. There's just I mean for a top 20 running back, so I just don't feel good about him as my RB2 at all. That's the main thing. I think there's a lot safer picks behind him. I'd certainly take Zamir White. I mean, honestly, I'd feel better about David Montgomery, who's going like 20 picks later as my RB2.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people. Javonte Williams, definitely.
Tony Pollard.
Yeah. There's just I don't think there's a ton of upside to the DeAndre Swift pick. I mean, your best case scenario is that he just becomes an absolute like touchdown vulture and gets like every line carry for like 15 touchdowns or something.
Well, I think he's going to be one of those players that's going to get 15 touches a game, and what he does with those, if it's awesome, then he's going to do well. But that's about all he's going to get.
Yeah,
you know, I do think they probably end up moving one of the other running backs at some point. I don't think they play all three of them.
Yeah,
I think they end up moving, and I think he'll probably get more of the passing work. But when you for the running backs, but when you got 4 pass catchers in Odunze, Allen, Moore, and Komet, and then I hear Gerald Everett's making an impression.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not. I mean, like, if he gets all the running back catches, what are you talking? 2-3 a game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
like
apparently, Caleb Williams has just never been a guy to throw those running backs.
Check down.
So that's another thing with him. So there's just not really much upside to him for me.
Yeah, I'm right there. Yeah, I see. Like he might come out at his value, but he's not going to finish much above. You're playing like you got more of a risk of him finishing less than more.
Yeah, and for a 6th, 7th round pick, I'm looking more for upside, honestly.
That's right. Yeah, and you named off several guys that got a lot more upside for sure. So,
all right.
So that's yours. My number one is going to be Devin Achane, the historically most efficient season ever as a running back last year. Okay, like not even rivaled a little bit. All right. And he still only finished RB24 last year. He played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. All right. For one, he had a 51-point game against Denver. Okay. 51 points. All right. And I get it. He finished at 24, but they've got him now going is like the 11th running back overall at pick 25. And there's still Mostert. There's still Jeff Smith. Jeff is Smith Jr., right? Jeff Smith?
Wilson.
Jeff Wilson. Gosh, I was losing my mind. Jeff Wilson Jr. and Jalen Wright, the rookie that they're high on, that's making the same moves that Devin Achane did last year.
Like Achane.
Dude, and then you're picking this guy 25th, right before Josh Jacobs, right after Isaiah Pacheco, right after ETN, right before James. 2 picks. He's going 2 running backs before James Cook, and he's in a committee. He will not. Statistically, it's almost an anomaly for him to be the most efficient running back ever again at that pace, and he would need a 50-point game somewhere. And if I'm not mistaken, it might be the highest scoring game. He was up there with Tomlinson. I don't know if he He didn't break Tomlinson's record for the most points in a game, but I think he was second. Okay. It's probably not going to happen
again. It was
again.
Just big play after big play. It was crazy.
Like, it's not going to happen again, probably, guys. Like, I mean, and there's the way that they're projecting him is like that he's going to be the guy. He's not going to be the guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's still going to be Mostert mixed in with probably another running back, and then he's going to get his 10 to 12 catches. 10 to 12 touches. And it's like,
and Tua's still going to throw the ball 35, 40 times a game.
And they're still going to get Tyreek Hill. Like, guys, like, anyway, to me, the biggest overreaction, like, whatever, of all of them. Like, if I had to pick one player of all the players that I've got to bust, it's going to be Devin A-Chain.
Yeah, depending on the draft spot for him, it can certainly go wrong. So where does it have him for ADP, you said?
25.
Really?
Overall.
Wow.
The 11th running back.
The ESPN overall. The ESPN rankings right now has him at 17 and 41 overall. So I guess people are overdrafting him.
Yeah. So
which makes sense because his upside to me is he's an outlier of a San Francisco based offense.
Now is that PPR? Yeah. Man, because I've got it on PPR and sure.
They might not have updated it recently, but usually they keep it pretty updated. And like I said, he might be 17 on here, but people see Alvin Kamara and they're just like, nah, I'd rather take A-Chain. But
that's
the best case scenario for A-Chain is that he becomes Christian McCaffrey type workload. That's it. Because
that's the only.
That Christian McCaffrey's the only person that's ever been in a San Francisco type offense and gotten majority of the touches for a running back.
Yeah.
Usually in San Francisco, in Miami, in Houston, you see all these guys split carries throughout the backfield. So if A-Chain was to become McCaffrey, then he might be a top 5 or 10 running back. But that's a very, very big jump he's going to have to take.
Yeah, and let's not forget, he's got an injury history.
Yeah.
He couldn't really stay healthy in college. He got hurt before the season started, had to wait, didn't play the first game because he was hurt. Then he played 4 games. Then he was out for 5 games after that in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Like,
he's
not going to be that productive missing that much time.
He's exactly what Anthony Richardson is at quarterback.
Yeah.
That either of them could be top 5, top 3 guys. I wouldn't be surprised if they got the full workload and stay fully healthy. But I think it's more likely that they don't.
I think Anthony Richardson's more likely by far because we know he has the workload. He's just got to stay healthy and do what he does. A-Chain doesn't even have the workload and doesn't have the history to stay healthy. Like, they're not writing off Mostert and Wilson, and then the rookie is probably going to get 5-6 touches a game. Like, they're with as explosive as he's been, they're going to give him a chance to bust one. You know, so that's just me. A-Chain's my number 1. Number 2 for me is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs for a couple reasons. Okay, first off, 23rd hardest schedule for a running back. Second, he's had 2 hamstring injuries in the preseason already. That ain't good, guys. I'm sorry, especially for a guy that's supposed to ramp up his volume and his and how much they're going to use him. If he's had 2 hamstring injuries already and it's just the preseason, I just find it hard to believe they're going to be able to work him any more than they did last year. All right. Now, last year he finished at RB8, right? He's going at RB6 right now. All right. If he was going at RB8, that'd be about 6-7 picks later. But that's only if he does what he did last year. Last year, he only missed 2 games, okay? But this year, he's got 2 hamstring injuries already. He still hasn't started practicing yet, okay, since the last one. He's still holding him out, okay? They're saying he has a chance to practice next week, but he's missing valuable time. The only thing he's got going for him is that Reed really doesn't have a ton of competition as far as because he's got David Montgomery, and then he's got the other wide receivers. So he's high up there. And that's why he's one that I definitely think he's going to be top 20, no doubt. He's probably going to be around, I have a feeling he's going to be around 12 to 15-ish, okay? But if he's like 12 to 15-ish around the running backs, like with these, like, hamstring injuries are just so not good for guys that are explosive and quick and shifty, because that's typically how you hurt them. Like, if he was just a like a deep threat wide receiver, maybe I feel a little bit better. But stopping, cutting, jerky, quick slants, like stuff planting and pushing like that, that's rough on your hamstrings, and it just gives me pause about that. But I don't see how they give him more. Like, I don't see how he finishes more than 8th if they don't give him more work. And they gave him a lot of work last year. So that's why I just feel like 8 is probably a ceiling this year with these injuries, not being able to stay healthy. And he might not be somebody that can maintain that health over a season. We've seen that with several other running backs before, that they have to tailor that workload for. And they're very efficient and they're very good at what they do. But I don't know if he takes that next step. He had 52 catches for 316 yards last year and a touchdown. He definitely could eclipse that, but he had 182 rushes for 945 yards and 10 touchdowns. I mean, I just don't know if he gets over 8. Like, I don't know if he has a better season than he had last year. And to finish it where he's getting drafted right now, he would have to do better than he did last year. And I don't know if he does that. Also, like I said, 23rd hardest schedule for a running back. With the injuries, I just don't know if it happens, guys. That's just where I'm at on Gibbs. I don't know if he has a bigger role if he can't stay healthy. Also, and then that's Jahmyr Gibbs, and then my last guy is Jonathan Brooks. This one, honestly, other than A-Chain, this is probably the low-hanging fruit for me. For one, he's getting drafted let's see. And he's actually fallen some since I made this list, guys, about a couple days ago. But he's getting drafted around 29th overall running back, around 84th, right? The guy hasn't even practiced yet, people. Okay? Like, he has not practiced at all. He's going to open the season on the PUP list. He's going to miss at least the first 4 or 5 games of the season, they're saying already. Okay? And he's getting drafted around 84th. So that's around Javonte Williams. That's around Nick Chubb, who Nick Chubb could come back, theoretically, could come back around the same amount of time and is getting drafted around the same spot as this guy. So do you want Nick Chubb after 4 or 5 games with no practice with the team? Or do you want Jonathan Brooks on the Carolina Panthers with no practice coming back? You know what I mean? And he's a rookie. So it's not like we've seen him out there and done this. I mean, how many rookie running backs have we seen come out and not be productive and not be successful? And not to mention, it's the Carolina Panthers. It's not like this is a lit offense that we've seen elite and that we could see him coming in and taking over. Like, he could come in and take over, but this is not a good offense, people. And it's not that great of an offensive line. I mean, they're okay, but they're not great. A couple picks later, you got Austin Eckler. Then another couple picks after that, you got Zach Moss, Brian Robinson, Devin Singletary. Honestly, all those guys could very easily finish way ahead of Jonathan Brooks, going ahead of them. I'm out on Jonathan Brooks. I'm out on anybody that's starting the season on the PUP list that's going where guys that are the RB1s on their team that are going after them. If that makes any sense, I'm out on it. So, so that's where I'm at with Jonathan Brooks. And that's my last running back. So I got A-Chain, Gibbs, Brooks. Who you got as a bust at running back again, Clay?
Running back is Kyron Williams, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift.
All right. So there you go, guys. That's our bust at running back. Let's jump right on into wide receivers. And who you got at wide receiver, Clay?
Starting off hot again. We're going with Justin Jefferson.
Snap.
The best receiver in football, probably.
Yeah.
But I absolutely despise Sam Darnold. That's my number one. That's my number one statement there.
Okay. It's because
again,
he's got a big head. That's what it is. His head's big.
it's because people thought he was better than Baker in this draft, and he's not. That's my number one reason. And Lamar. I mean, people thought he was better than Lamar.
I think they've won that argument. I think that argument's been diffused.
I agree.
So
I agree.
You know,
but anyway. Hey, if he has a good season this year, it'll be right back up.
Well, my thing,
what's up?
Is Justin Jefferson have a good season and Lamar and Sam Darnold still be terrible? So
it could happen. It could happen.
But anyway, go ahead.
Justin Jefferson, another guy that's more than likely a first round pick. He is falling towards that back half of the first round. It looks like now.
Yeah.
But still, I think in most leagues he's going to be in a first round pick. And in a similar situation with Saquon, I feel a little bad about it. Not as to the extreme of Saquon. I think that Justin can still be incredible, but I do think there's a handful of guys that are behind him that I feel more comfortable about, especially given their quarterback situations. I mean, A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson. I would take them in a heartbeat over J.J. this year. Jefferson's awesome. He did miss some games last year with injury. Addison, we don't know what his situation is going to be. I don't know if it's for better or for worse if Addison is playing. Like, I don't know if that opens the field up more for him or you know, like that's a weird situation. Same with Hawkinson. Like,
no Hawkinson, that's right.
Yeah, like it's sometimes it's better for these receivers to have more weapons on the field rather than have less.
Especially if they're dominant.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's him out there with 2 or 3 guys we've never heard of, then every eye on that field is going to be at Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
And I just gut feeling this year is just that it's going to be a down year. Now, is a down year for him top 15? Maybe, but top 15 receiver slides to about 25 or 30 rather than your first overall pick. And that's my main thing here is just that I feel a lot more comfortable about a lot of different other guys. I mean, I'd take Chris Olave possibly over him. I would probably still take JJ, but I just feel better about Olave as a season-long guy. Now, I'm talking about Derek Carr versus Sam Darnold there, but still, it's just I think there's a lot of risk to Jefferson this year, and it sucks because
I gotcha.
You know, just straight up wide receiver versus wide receiver, he's probably the best there is. But just given it's similar to Mahomes as well. Like we can't go off of just talent. We got to go off of fantasy situations, and I just don't think he's got the best this year.
My only thing is we seen him do it with Nick Mullins last year toward the end of the year. The last, 6 games or so, 15, 26, 10, and 36 with Nick Mullins and had at least 10 targets every one of those games. And that was with them on the fly because Cousins, was out. They were scrambling.
Hawkinson was probably out by then.
They had Dobbs, they had Mullins, they had who was the other kid? There was some other kid that had thrown in there.
BYU.
Yeah. So they had all the they didn't know. At least right now, they know it's Sam Darnold. They're getting work in together. They can scheme and plan for what Sam Darnold does best way ahead of time. And also the difference between him and Saquon, this is Justin Jefferson's team. This is his offense. It is all it's all around Justin Jefferson. That's why I think Malik Neighbors is going to be so hot because that's how it is for him and the Giants. Now, their team's not as good as Minnesota's is. So, man, I think it's all going to be toward Jefferson. Now, do I think that he's going to finish like 1 overall like he has in the past? No, I don't think so. But I think he could return his end of the first, beginning of the second round value fairly easily if he has consistent play with Darnold. Now, if they start playing quarterback carousel again, and, at least he's played with their backup Mullins currently, so he has some chemistry there with him also. And I think with their defense not being that great still, they're going to be a lot of negative game scripts. Going to have to throw the ball a lot. I mean, we'll see. I see your argument with it, and I'm like you. I'd rather have a Monreal that's going around the same time. I would rather have A.J. Brown. There's still the mouths to feed in that situation, but he does command it.
I'd take Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I would definitely take Garrett Wilson probably. And I'm hoping I've got a draft that's coming up that's I'm at the end of the the end of the draft in a snake, and which he won't fall that late in this draft. But like if I do have the end of the pick and he falls to me, I will pick him, and then I'm turning around and I'm picking Garrett Wilson.
See, I was about to say, looking at it, if you can get to a situation where it's like an 8 or 9 pick, and then you flip from Jefferson to Wilson, I like that because you have like probably the safe floor of Jefferson, and then Wilson could absolutely.
And you could. But anyway, neither here nor there. I understand your pick. And I'm not complete because I just do feel like he's young enough. Now you got the health because he has had some health issues over the last couple of years. He missed a lot of games last year. Not that he had anything to play for, but who's to say they don't go out and trade for somebody?
Yeah,
I mean JJ McCarthy, they had a lot resting on him. He's still a rookie. Who's to say they don't go out and trade for a better veteran? They were not planning on really having to rely on Darnold like this. So, I mean, you could still end up getting somebody in there that's a lot more comparable, for them. So that's just another thought as well. But anyway, go ahead and move on.
My number 2 is Deebo Samuel. Deebo is number 18, it looks like right now on ESPN's rankings. 32 overall, so looking like a high 4th, late 3rd overall pick. Mainly, him being behind Brandon Ayuk is just crazy to me. I think Ayuk's going to have far better season. Looks like he's staying in San Francisco. I think Deebo's on the back half of his career, which is kind of crazy to say at 28. He's constantly banged up. Doesn't really have the connection with Purdy that Ayuk has, and I think the older he gets, he's going to be turning 29 this season. The older he gets, the less of them gadget plays he's going to be able to do that made him such an awesome fantasy receiver. And I don't love him being drafted as a wide receiver 2 this year. I mean, some of the guys it looks like it's going around the same range: DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, maybe even Calvin Ridley. I would take over him. Like there's a decent bit of guys that I feel more comfortable with. Given the injuries and just the team situations overall.
29th strength of schedule. 29th strength of schedule against him. So not a great schedule for a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And then just another little tip. I was looking at his history. So he came in the league in 19. Great season in 19. 20, terrible season. 80 points for the season. 21, probably one of the best. He might have been he might have been wide receiver 1 then. 339 points. Great season in 21.
That was crazy.
Okay. 22, okay. 168 points. Not that great for his standards. Last year, great season. So if you're following the pattern, not a great season's coming up.
Yeah. And if you look at his stats from last season, looking at receiving wise, 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. That just doesn't sound crazy, but then you look 225 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns for a receiver. That's a lot. And I just think the older he gets, the less they're going to do that. And especially given the shaky situation with Ayuk, you don't want to just throw your wide receiver 1 out there at the time and just say, hey, run the ball, because you're just going to increase the chance of injury. I think they're going to be a little bit safer with him.
His rushing yardage has declined every year for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So
those 5 touchdowns are freaking huge.
Yeah. So I'm right there with you. I agree. I mean, it's a lot of risk is what it is for, somebody going in that range when you got a lot of safety picks.
An upside that I just don't really see going very high.
Yep.
I like that. Really don't. My last one is a guy that I believe you had on a breakout list. I'm going Keon Coleman.
Yep.
I gut feeling again here. Not that I love Khalil Shakir. I don't really feel great about that. The Curtis Samuel situation is iffy. He's kind of banged up again. Like it's just already don't really know what's going on there. But you just haven't heard a ton of great things about Keon, to be honest, and not really a lot of production in preseason. It just feels like we're banking on him to perform because he was a highly drafted rookie. That's his number one thing that he's got going for him, and it's in a room where there really ain't much competition.
There ain't nobody else.
Almost similar to Ladd McConkey, where in a normal year on a normal team, you really wouldn't be going for it. But with Keon, I just don't think he's ready for it this year. And yeah, I don't really know exactly how high he's going. Looks like he's about 45 on this, but I feel like
he's going around. Let's see, pick 102.
Okay.
So he's going around wide receiver twos like JSN, which if you consider him a 2 or a 3. Jordan Addison, Cortland Sutton, Jamison Williams, Brian Thomas Jr. He's going about four or five wide receivers ahead of Shakir.
Okay.
So he's going around 45th wide receiver. Shakir's 50th wide receiver.
Okay. And this is another situation where I just feel in most leagues I feel like he's going to get overdrafted because I think they might see that name and they're like, oh, he's playing with Josh Allen in Buffalo. He's going to be the wide receiver 1. And you see that a lot of times with rookies and especially young guys and like in these weird situations that they just get overdrafted in so many leagues. And I think that's going to be the case again this year with Keon. And I think he's going to be a good player in the future. I'm just not sure that it's ready for it right now. But yeah, so that's my last one. Yeah, it's way lower on the list than all my other picks, but just a lot of question marks to me.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I get it. I feel like he's going late enough. Like it's not that big of a risk.
Yeah.
Because like he's not even one of your starting wide receivers. Like he's going on your bench for maybe your first or second wide receiver on your bench.
Yeah.
Like he's going. All right. So get this. He's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers after Ladd McConkey, who has a banged up quarterback in a running offense. And, like, he's not even the sure wide receiver 1. Now, neither is Coleman, but he's going 5 picks later. Like, I mean, I don't know. I just like his chances, especially as big as he is. And if Josh Allen, and he's kind of a gunslinger, and if he gives him that chance at 6'4", 215 to go up and get the ball a lot, it don't matter how fast or how much you can move. If you got a 5'10" cornerback and you're 6'4", 215, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure the 6'4" guy's going to get it no matter if he beats you on that route or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and the way they are in the NFL now with pass interference and everything, like we've seen it with DK Metcalf. They can be bullies out there on that field and be productive by just being a bully. So I feel like he's got a chance.
It's a big boom or bust, I think.
Yeah.
With this player, I mean, he could be a not a top 60 receiver. He could be a top 25. Like I wouldn't be surprised with any of those outcomes.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's your number 2, right? Was that 2?
That's my 3. Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel, Keon.
Deebo, that's right. Okay. All right. So my number 1, Nico Collins. Not a knock against Nico. I like the guy. I get it. Like he finished wide receiver 18 last year, but that was before they added Stephon Diggs, guys. Like they're projecting him to finish higher this year at 14 than last year, but you add another competitive mouth to feed. And then that was before Tank Dell kind of blew up. Like, so now Tank Dell's commanding his own presence. Like, so you got Nico Collins going at 14. You got Stephon Diggs going at 19. You got Tank Dell going at 29. There's no way. I cannot see. Unless you got C.J. Stroud throwing for 600 attempts for 5,500 yards and 50 touchdowns. I don't see it, guys. Like, I mean, he's good. He's great. All right. But, I mean, he had 109 targets on 80 catches for 1,297 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. All right. I don't know if he eclipsed that with Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs in that wide receiver set. Like, and then he had 2 34, 35-point games last year. Okay. I mean, monster games. Like, and he might have a couple of those again this year, but he's going 29th overall, like right after Drake London. Now, I will say he has some other question marks around him. He's got Deebo Samuel right after him. He's got Mike Evans after that. He's got Michael Pittman Jr. after that. Then he's got Brandon Ayuk, Cooper Kupp, but like still like, I mean, he's probably got a decent floor of around 17 or 18. So, you know, some of those other guys in that area might have a lower floor. I get that. But I just don't know if he's going to finish at 14. I feel like there's other guys that are going later that have a better, you know, have just as good a chance to finish at 14. Yeah. I think DJ Moore and Malik Neighbors have that chance. DJ Moore did it last year with Justin Fields in that situation. He was wide receiver 8. Okay, and he's going at 23.
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors.
There's a lot of question marks with this pick, and it mostly comes down to what do you feel about Stephon Diggs? That's really the biggest question. Like if you think Diggs takes that step back to, you know, a wide receiver 2 kind of guy, then I think Nico can still be a 1. But I mean, Diggs last year was still a 1,000-yard, 100-catch guy, and I don't see him taking a big step back.
I don't either.
It's definitely a risk.
And that's another thing. I've heard about 3 or 4 beat writers come across and some of the analysts on TV talk about Diggs was brought in as the 1. Now, I know everybody thinks Collins is the 1. He's listed on the 1 as the depth chart. But is he? Like, or is it going to be Diggs? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and if that's the case, you just drafted the 14th guy when the 19th guy, Diggs, 40th overall, could very well be that guy you should have drafted at 14.
Yeah. I mean, Diggs can be the guy that he was in Buffalo, and I would not be surprised.
Yeah, very easily. So, and everybody's thinking because he's the new guy, but he's the veteran. Like, Collins has only been in the league for
like
3 seasons.
Did I say 3 maybe?
3 seasons. Okay. And then Stroud's only been with him for 1. So it's not like they've got this long history together. You know, they got 1 season and it was pretty good. But anyway. So Nico Collins, not too keen on that pick. I'm not saying that I do think he'll finish as a top probably 25 guy easily, maybe even top 20. But I don't think he's going to finish around that 14 value at wide receiver. And then my next guy, this guy I had on this list, Davante Adams. I will say that I have at the end of this, before this was done, before they listed Minshew as a starting quarterback, because at this time everybody was saying it was going to be Aiden O'Connell, and then Minshew might take over eventually. Well, Minshew ended up winning the job outright in the preseason. He's been labeled that. And so I have labeled Minshew as his only hope. So, so now Minshew's there. So that still gives him a chance. But we're talking about Devontae is going 10th wide receiver overall, 19th overall pick, but 10th wide receiver off the board. Man, that's a pretty steep price for a guy that has a defensive-minded head coach and really a defensive-minded team now, that they're wanting to rely on their defense more than their offense. And they're saying that with their quarterback. They didn't go out and get one. They got Gardner Minshew, who's a game manager, very, very efficient and very capable quarterback, but a game manager, not a go out and win it for you quarterback. You know what I mean? Yeah. They went with him, and it was even a competition with him and the rookie O'Connell, who couldn't really win it for him last year. So anyway, and then you still got Jacoby Myers there, Mike Mayer. Then they go out and draft Brock Bowers. Are you not going to give Brock Bowers the ball? So the target's got to come from somewhere. All right. So then you go back and you look at kind of Davante Adams' games last year. He had a 42-point game and a 37-point game. All right. If you look at all the other games outside, say you take away that game, the 42, the 37, and he's got I think he's got like a 24-point game. All right. Outside of that, he only averaged like 12 points a game, 12 points. Okay. And those are big chunk games, but like, are you going to get that out of a more, I guess you could say, conservative team that they're probably going to try to be with Antonio Pierce, where they're going to try to win the game with the running game and the defense. I don't know. Now, Clay raised a good question that we were talking about this a little bit before. Does he end up getting traded to a contender? Possibly. But another question is, if he's not getting the work or they're not winning, does he sit out until he gets traded to a contender? And then you're missing those games. Okay? Another question there, because he is 31 years old, guys. He ain't got much, there ain't a lot left there. Okay? So if he's wanting to win another one, he's going to have to get traded because it ain't going to happen in Vegas. I hate to tell him. And I don't think that's a news flash to anybody. Another one that I heard that Clay and I was trying to clear up this stat. I should have recorded it whenever I was listening to a podcast. One of the analysts dropped this stat on me. I think it's over the last 2 or 3 years. There's been 64 running wide receivers that were ranked in, I think it was the top 12 or top 15 that are 30 years or older. 64, okay, that were 30 or older in like the top 12 or 15. And of those 64 wide receivers, only 6 have finished in that top 12 or 15. Okay? Only 6 of them out of 64. Devontae Adams is 31. Okay? And last year, he did break that mold and finished at wide receiver 11. But he's got the 24th hardest schedule as for a wide receiver this year. He's 31 years old. Does he beat those odds again with Gardner Minshew, with the defensive-minded head coach? I don't think so. Like, if you're drafting Devontae Adams, that means you're picking him over Olave. You're picking him around Marvin Harrison Jr. You could have that pick because they're going like back-to-back almost. You're picking him over Drake London, who I think very well could finish in the top 12 to 15, like 12 this year easily, if not the top. I mean, he's going at 12 right now. He could easily finish the top 10, because I think his volume is going to shoot through the roof. And if he's as dominant as they say he can be, Kirk Cousins is going to get him the ball. So anyway, Devontae Adams, that's my number 2. He's another year older. I'm not too sure about it, guys, especially at that 19th pick. You're talking about, middle to end of the second round. You might want to be looking at some of those running backs there, that have a lot more upside than that. So that's just me, Devontae Adams there. And then my last guy is Amari Cooper for Cleveland. Okay. Same thing with Cooper. You got that age thing, 30 years old, but also you got the Deshaun Watson question marks. He's already injured this year. I don't know if anybody's seen. I just seen it today going across there. He is injured with his throwing shoulder, his arm soreness. Okay? If he's out, what are we doing with Amari Cooper? He's going 25th overall. He's going right after Malik Neighbors, right before George Pickens, right before T. Higgins, for Pete's sake. Okay? And then not only that, Njoku looked a lot better, get a lot more comfortable in the offense. They bring in Jalen Waddle. Okay. Now not Jalen Waddle, sorry. Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy has been unproven, but has not really had a great offensive-minded head coach until Sean Payton. And we all know Sean Payton only likes things that he has something to do with. He didn't draft Jerry Jeudy, so he has no ties to it. Well, Jerry Jeudy he's only 25. And who's to say that he doesn't come in and command more of that volume than Amari Cooper does at 30? Okay. Not to mention Amari Cooper's injury woes. He had a really good year last year because he wasn't hurt. So another thing to consider there. And at 30, it ain't getting easier to come back from those injuries. So another thing right there. I'm just not feeling it. He's got a middle of the road strength of schedule, so I'm not really factoring that in. But he's just somebody I feel like is probably not going to live up to those expectations. And I like some guys that are being drafted in that area a lot more. But that's Amari Cooper. So my guys, Nico Collins, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper. Who's yours one more time, Clay?
We got Justin Jefferson, Debo Samuel, Keon Coleman.
Yep. So guys to look out for bus at wide receiver. And let's go ahead and rock on with tight ends and then wrap this one up.
All right. So tight ends, the hardest one to do for every one of these lists. And I tried to make it to where I picked 12 different tight ends instead of using repeats at any spot. These are pretty bold, and they'll probably all finish top 10, but who knows? I'm going to go Evan Ingram, number one. He's a sixth-round pick right now, it looks like. That's just a little high to me. I like Evan Ingram as a player. I think he's fine, and last year he had a really good season. Finished probably as a top 5 tight end, if I had to guess. Actually, number 2. Wow. But I just, as a sixth-rounder, he's not exactly what I'm looking for, just to be honest, and that's my main reason for being low on him. The weapons, I think, have gotten better. You added Gabe Davis, you added BTJ. Another year with the Doug Peterson experiment, and I think Trevor Lawrence can be all around better. I just don't know if it equals a better season or an equal season for Ingram, and not one to replicate a sixth round pick. I just think that's a little high for a tight end to me. My number 2 is George Kittle, one that awesome player, one of the best tight ends in football. But it always feels like he's a little bit of an underachiever in terms of fantasy. He finished last year still at tight end number 5. But he's ranked number 6 right now. A little bit better of a value in terms of rounds. Looks like he's going about late 7th, early 8th, somewhere around there. But I do feel better about some of the guys behind him to take a leap over him. Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, even Njoku I could see doing better. Maybe even Jake Ferguson. I don't love Kittle. It never really seems that he has that connection with Purdy. And now that Ayuk is staying, I think that's just a downgrade overall to Kittle and Debo, as I mentioned in the receiver one, because Ayuk is Purdy's guy. Absolutely. And I just don't love Kittle in this range, especially with some of the guys that are behind him. And then my last one is Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is number 11. But I feel like he never achieves what he's supposed to be either. Last year he finished, about tight end 12, 13 maybe, but I think he probably missed some games. He always does. Yeah, he missed 3 games. As we mentioned, Saquon Barkley's in the equation. I think Jalen Hurts has a better season, but I think it's going to be more to Smith and Brown. I don't really see Dallas Goedert having much upside and being drafted as a tight end starter when I would much rather have some of the guys behind him. That's pretty much how it is. So.
I love it because I got 2 of those same guys on my list. Kittle's my number 1.
There you go.
He's another year older, has had so many health problems, and last year he stayed healthy and finished at 5. I find it hard to believe he stays healthy this year and finishes at 6, probably, especially like we're talking about, loss of connection. He had a lot of boom or bust games last year, had a 27-point game against Dallas where he caught 3 touchdowns. Okay. Not only that, his touchdown production took a big hit last year. He had a lot of yards, hardly any touchdowns. I could see that regressing where he got some more touchdowns, but I don't see him going over 1,000 yards again this year. They got Ricky Pearsall coming in there, really talented rookie wide receiver. I think they're going to use a lot. They're talking about Juwan Jennings has been making a lot of noise. Like, they got some talented wide pass catchers in that offense outside of Debo and Ayuk. And I think that's another reason with Ayuk that they're not as pressed because they've got so many options there. And also, my main thing is the health and his age. Not to mention, he's got his strength of schedule is the 6th hard. It's pretty decent, 6th easiest. Sorry, wrong side of that. But man, I don't know, man. It's an awful pricey task, and I'm right there with you. I like Pitts better. I like Ingram better. Just because of the volume he's been getting and his chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. I like Njoku better. I like Ferguson better. I like Hawkinson better, and then get 1 guys later. And then when Hawkinson comes back, I think he's going to be a stud there in Minnesota. Because, he just commands so much, and he gets so many more better looks because of Jefferson. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's a whole other strategy. But, yeah, I just think he's a little too high. I think this is going to be another down year, and I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, one of those. He's had bad year, good year, good year, bad year, good year, good year, good year. Okay. To me, if I'm looking at that, he's kind of due for a bad year.
There you go.
So I don't know. I'm right there with you. He's my number one. I'm gonna go ahead and touch on Dallas Goedert. He's my number 3, but I'm right there with you too. I like Dallas Goedert. I kind of feel bad for him because he's a good tight end on a team with a lot of mouths to feed, and he's a good blocker, and that doesn't help him much because a lot of what they do needs to give Jalen Hurts more time. And not only that, all the running scheme plays like that call for him to block more than pass catch. And he has a good strength of schedule also. But I'm right there with you, man. He never
lives up. Yeah,
he doesn't. And with AJ Brown, adding Saquon, and Devontae Smith always coming through, it's just too many mouths to feed. And Hurts is going to get his. I'm right there. I would much rather have some of these guys after him that got a higher ceilings than him. So I'm right there with you. And then my guy, Brock Bowers. All right. Like, I get it. The dude is awesome. But he goes to one of the worst teams in an offense like I just talked about that is probably going to be more run-heavy, defensive-oriented. All right. They had Mike Mayer, who they drafted very high the year before, one of the best tight end prospects in his draft, ahead of him on the depth chart still. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, ahead of him in the pecking order for commanding targets. Zamir White's a very capable pass catcher in himself that was there already. Like, I'm just trying to find out where he's going to get tight end 11 volume from.
And it's Gardner Minshew at quarterback. That's another thing. He's fine. But
it's not like he's coming in CJ Stroud.
No. And I can't really think of Gardner Minshew using a tight end. Now, the Colts really don't ever have one, but
now, if Mayer gets hurt, Devontae Adams gets traded, all right?
Brock's going to have to
see Bowers exploding, right? But right now, with all the people they have, with their quarterback, I don't see it happening, guys. Yeah. Like, he's going at tight end 11, and he's going inside the 100 picks. Like, let me pull up who he's going around. This is one of those I was looking who they're going around, right? And so he's going around pick 94. So he's going right after Devin Singletary, but he's going before Tajay Spears. He's going before Ladd McConkey. He's going before Christian Watson, Roma Dudze, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, JSN. I mean, like, he's going before all these guys. Like, he's going before Jaden Daniels, for Pete's sake. He's going before, like, I don't know what these cats are doing. Like,
and honestly, this is another thing where it kind of goes into the fantasy strategy. It's kind of at the point where you're too late on a tight end to where it's almost better for you just to wait to the last 2 or 3 rounds.
He is in that kind of tight end risk dead zone. Now, Jake Ferguson's going right before him in that, but I think Jake Ferguson's got a good shot at outproducing his ADP just based off he finished tight end 8 last year. They shed Michael Gallup. He gets more volume this year, I think. Now, I think Jalen Tolbert's going to surprise some people. But also Brandon Cooks, he ain't no spring chicken. He's already had problems staying healthy. I don't think he stays healthy again. That could be a problem for him. So I think that opens up more targets. Dak Prescott's got some excellent chemistry with Ferguson. He's a huge red zone guy. That all works in Ferguson's, wheelhouse. But yeah, I mean, like, I'll be honest, I'd rather have Tyler Conklin that's going at 181, pick tight end 19. That's going to be on a team with Aaron Rodgers. And you're going to have Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, and Breece Hall, and then Tyler Conklin, where Tyler Conklin could be over the pecking order for Mike Williams, like, very easily. Yeah. And we know what kind of passer that Aaron Rodgers is. You know what I mean? Like, is it Minshew or Rodgers that you want to rely on the fourth option?
I think your best option for getting Brock Bowers and like feeling comfortable with it is so right now on ESPN's like draft rankings, he's listed at tight end 12, 111 overall.
Yeah.
So that's a 12th round pick. I think what your best case scenario is everyone else has drafted their tight end. And now you get like 3 or 4 rounds of value for him to where if he falls to the 13th or the 14th, then you take him and you're like, it's a high upside pick to where maybe he could work and maybe the talent just prevails. Because I'm in a keeper league and one of my keepers this year is probably going to be Dalton Kincaid in the 14th last year, where I think he was kind of in the similar range where it felt a little too high, but he just kind of fell because no one's drafting a backup tight end. So, and at a certain point, it's kind of worth the risk. But there's a lot of hurdles for him to jump before he becomes like a solidified guy.
And I like how you threw that name out there because people can relate to that. But Dalton Kincaid had Josh Allen as his quarterback in that offense.
Yeah.
We're talking about Gardner Minshew and the Raiders offense. So, like, not Buffalo's high-scoring offense.
Yeah.
And not Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the league that throws it 40, 50 times a game. We're talking about Gardner Minshew that's going to throw it 30 to 40, maybe 30 to 35 times a game that's going to be more run-oriented, and he can probably maintain good fantasy value for 2 pass catchers. And I don't think it's going to be over Myers and Adams. That's just me.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's Brock Bowers. So I got Kittle, Bowers, Goddard, and Clay. You got
Kittle, Goddard, Ingram.
All right, and that's going to wrap us up, guys. Clay is going to get this graphic posted later on this week, and so that way, if you missed, any of this or whatever, had to fast forward through it, you caught the end of it, or if you just want to look at them before you draft. He's going to get the graphic up on the Facebook page, so that way you'll have a list of all these guys for each one of us. We appreciate everybody listening. Please like, subscribe, go out, follow us, download it, give us some reviews, give us some give us some comments. Let us know what you want to hear more of. Let us know what you don't want to hear more of, and let us know what you think. We want to hear from everybody. We appreciate everybody that's listening, and we'll come at y'all next week or the next podcast with bounce back player picks, and y'all keep chasing that trophy.
All right.
This ain't how it's supposed to be. It should be just you and me.